Hey, you guys. All right. We have a really, really good question. And so I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss it and that I came back to it because it's such a powerful one. And basically, what it was this one of you had asked if I would share, if I could think back and remember, like, what was the one tool that helped me the most in early sobriety? And I right away was like, oh, this is so good. This is so good because of course hindsight is 2020, right? So I have the perspective now to be able to, I'm much farther along. I can look back at that time and be like, what did I really use the most? What helped me the most? And I know that it is what I recognized at the time as one of my most powerful tools. And I'm really just grateful that for whatever reason, this tool really was like what spoke to me. Like, I'm trying to think now, like, where did it even come from? Where did this idea come from? How did it land on me? And why did I like cling to it for dear life? Because that is like really 100% remember just being like, okay, this is the thing. This is the thing that I am clinging to for dear life, and just riding this for as long as it takes for sobriety to stick, for it to feel easier. And so the tool, what it is, you guys, what I'm going to say is kind of two parts here. And so the first part of it, rather, and what it is really, I'm trying to think of how to say it because you might be like, that's not a tool, but it is. The first tool is really a mindset shift, you guys, because this is something where I see a lot of people stumble because they just basically don't want to commit. You're trying to still somehow keep a door open for alcohol. And as long as that door is even cracked just a littlest bit, you guys, sooner or later, alcohol will rear its ugly head again, because that's what it does. It is an absolutely insanely powerful addictive drug. And so the tool, because this was a refrain, and those of you that maybe have been around, meaning been following me on Instagram for a long time, you're going to recognize this. It was simply is the saying that I said a million times a day. And what it was is that drinking is not an option. Drinking is not an option. When I quit this time, September 10th, 2022, when I made that my day one, the coaching group that I was in, the community that I started growing pretty early on Instagram, because I got on Instagram when I was like 30 days sober and really did it as like a part of like my morning exercise. I was journaling a lot. I was working through the program I was in, and that program was a lot of reflection, a lot of answering questions. And so I started using Instagram really as just like an online diary. It was another way for me to hold myself accountable. And the through line through all of that was that drinking just wasn't an option. I literally forced myself to pretend that for me, alcohol did not exist. There was never going to be another excuse or another scenario where I allowed myself to turn to alcohol. That was just it, you guys. And it was such a radical exercise in self accountability and in making a promise to myself that I wasn't going to break. And that, I think, is the magic of it. That's how it became such a tool, because you guys, like me, the end of our drinking was nothing except maybe a daily occurrence of breaking promises to ourselves, right? Every single time that we said, okay, I'm not going to drink this week. I'm not even going to drink tomorrow. I'm not going to go to the store and buy alcohol, or I'm not going to overdo it this weekend. I'm going to buy these 2 bottles of wine, and that's going to be it to last me the whole entire weekend. And then it crashed in this fiery inferno of us absolutely going back on all of those promises to ourselves and going to the store and getting wine. And a lot of you were like me, and we were hiding that alcohol, and we were lying to our family about it, and we were overdoing it every single time. And so we were stuck in this cycle of doing nothing but making promises to ourselves and then promptly breaking those promises, and like believing the absolute bullshit lying excuses we told ourselves about, like, oh, but it's not that bad, or oh, but it's okay because my job is so hard. The kids are so hard. My marriage is so hard. My family is so hard, blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying blah, 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 you guys, because this is what I had to do to myself. I had to call myself out on all of that bullshit and say, Shannon, it doesn't matter how hard it is to be a special needs mom. It doesn't matter how hard it is to be an entrepreneur and work from home while also homeschooling your children. It doesn't matter. It's bullshit. It can be an excuse or it can be the reason you choose to do better. And that was it. So I clung to it for dear life and forced myself to absolutely believe and adopt the mantra that drinking is not an option. Because then that forced me to do all of the really hard shit that I had been avoiding for years. I had to learn to figure out how to deal with the insane stress of being a special needs mom without drinking, because drinking was not an option. That was just it. And you guys, it sounds simple, but it actually is not at all, because when you, like I said, I feel like I like somehow tattooed that on my heart and was like really telling myself, like, if I drank again, it might kill me. Like, it might take everything. It could be what finally ended my marriage. It could be what made my daughters hate me. It could be what made me do something stupid like get behind the wheel of a car. So drinking was not an option. I had to learn how to deal with the stress of parenting. I had to learn how to deal with the trauma from my past that I had been shoving down and drinking over forever. We all have the things that we drink over, right? When we choose to quit drinking, we have to face all of those things, or they are going to continue to pull us back under. And so that's it. Like, that's the tool, is you have got to, for the first time, have radical accountability and start calling yourself out on all of the bullshit excuses that you have returned to every single other time that you've said you were going to quit, and then you gave in and drank again. And that's just it. And I know that that probably sounds harsh, you guys, but it's because it's true. This is the tough love. This is the tough love pep talk I gave myself endlessly, like day after day after day, those first couple months. Anytime that I did have a craving, anytime that I did think like, okay, no, I can't do this. I can't do this sober. I don't know how. I had to figure out how. That is the whole point. We have to figure it out. Drinking is not an option anymore. We don't figure out how to do life sober any other way than making ourselves do it sober, making ourselves just face all of the stuff that is so heavy and is so scary and is so painful, and just figuring out how to get through it. So like, that's the tool. Is drinking is not an option. What is it going to take for you to just 100% declare it's not an option for you anymore? There is no scenario where you are going to give in and let yourself make the same excuses you've always made in the past. And that's it. Like, it's as simple as that, but it's as complicated and nuanced as that, right? Because then we all have to do the work. We all have to do the hard work of figuring out how we show up for these really sticky parts of our lives without alcohol. But you guys, that's the beauty in it. That's the beauty in it and the journey, and in what you have access here in a program and a community like this, is like, you have proof that it's possible. You don't have proof of what it looks like for you yet, but you have proof that it's possible because you're surrounded by women that are also doing it or have already done it. You're surrounded by somebody like me who has told you everything. You know what my drinking looked like. You know what my life is like now sober. Most of the things that I swore for years, for decades, that there was no way I could possibly handle without alcohol, all of those things still exist. I have handled all of them without drinking. I do handle all of them without drinking on a daily basis because I've made myself figure it out. I made myself challenge all of the beliefs of like, but my friends and family still drink. What am I going to do if I'm the only one that doesn't drink? Oh, but my husband and I are college sweethearts. We've always drank together. What is it going to be like if I don't drink anymore? Oh, but what about all the moms groups where everybody drinks? But oh, some people can only have a couple drinks. Why can't I be that person? We one by one go through them all and check them all off and figure them all out, you guys. That is the way. That is the tool. That is how we do this. It's radical acceptance. It's radical life-saving acceptance when that's what is needed, right? When we have to accept that we are not people that can only have 1 or 2 drinks. We are not people that can drink on a Friday night and then not drink again for 6 weeks and not think about it. We're not those people. Thank God. I'm so happy I'm not that person now because I'm free from the illusion that alcohol holds any value. But that didn't happen overnight. It only happened because I made myself get through the first Friday night without drinking. And then I made myself get through the weekend after that and the weekend after that. I made myself get through the first date night with my husband where he was having a drink and I didn't have one. I got through, the first weekend away without drinking. I got through my brother's wedding without drinking. You can't want the skill and the mastery without being willing to do the practice that it takes to get that. And that's what we're doing here, right? It's using everything that's laid out right before you, everything that all of the people that have already done what you're trying to do, which is including me here, given you this roadmap, this blueprint, and said, this is it. If you do this and if you apply these things to your life, you can get here too, but you've got to be willing to just do the work. There's really no shortcut. If there is a shortcut, it's the shortcut is just realizing how powerful your mind is and you get to decide. So deciding that alcohol is not an option and deciding then that that's not a curse, but it's a blessing. You can step out of like this bullshit drama that has plagued us for years because of alcohol by simply just declaring, no, I'm done. Like, I'm just done. I'm not fighting alcohol anymore. I am moving on and I am going to learn how to do my life without it because pretty soon then we have learned how to do almost everything without it. And then we live in a way that's easy and peaceful and free forever now. If we do the work in the beginning, right? That's it. Like to kind of bring it full circle, you guys, what I've been moving through really the last 5 months now, with the first being this guardianship process. When Dylan, my now adult daughter, turned 18, she has Down syndrome, she has autism. My husband and I will take care of her forever. So when you have a child like this and they become 18, there is a huge lengthy legal process to actually retain guardianship. What this means is that we have essentially you have to take away all of a person's rights. Like Matt and I are still her guardians forever now, as if she was a child, because she cannot make any decision for herself. And somebody like Dylan, especially incredibly vulnerable, like she can't talk. She's in diapers 24/7. We have decided to keep her at home with us forever rather than putting her in something like a group home. But so this process is, you guys, it's been exhausting and soul crushing. And we basically hit the end of that process. It went from August through November. And then our pet of 18 years got really sick and passed away a couple of weeks ago. So this has been probably the most trying 5 months, actually, maybe of my life since Dylan was born, but especially of my sobriety. But I can say confident, you guys, there has not been even one single second in this whole time that I have actually even wanted to drink. Like, it hasn't even entered my mind because that is how far down this road I am. This is the payoff of all of that work for the first year, of all of the work that doesn't feel glamorous, of all of the stuff where it's like, face your shit and figure out how to be a happy person without drinking. And it's messy and it's hard. And that first year when there's so many good things, so much of it was already joy and happiness, but there were absolutely times that were crying and I was sad and I was exhausted and there's doubt and there's like all of it, right? It has paid off and it has served me so well because now this last few months, I've been going through one of the hardest, heaviest heart times of my life, and I have had zero desire to drink. This is where the work of early sobriety pays off, because when shit gets hard again and it gets really real, I have retrained every thought and every instinct in my body where alcohol still does not exist. I would never drink over any of the stuff that I just went through. And it has all been some of the most heartbreaking and isolating and alone and exhausting. And like, when is this going to end? When is it going to get better? All of it. And alcohol has not even been a thought in my mind. I can't imagine wanting to drink. In 3 years, that's what's happened. But it's because I did all of that hard stuff in the beginning. You keep doing the hard stuff until it's not hard anymore. Because then when life is hard, those are the habits that sustain you. Those are the things that make it possible for you to get through hard moments and actually know that you're going to get through them, right? Because that's it too. It's like, think about the miracle of my sobriety, the fact that I was a woman who, for years before I quit, was lying to my husband, the man I love most, was lying to him about my drinking. I was hiding alcohol in my home office. I was driving under the influence more than I even care to admit. I was making terrible decisions. Alcohol absolutely had its grip on me. And now, in a span of 3 years, I have gone through some of the most excruciatingly hard, sorrow-filled moments of my life, and alcohol hasn't even been a thought. You guys, that's what's possible. That's what's possible if we let it be, if we do the work, if we trust the process in the beginning. And that's what it is. That process for me started with saying alcohol is not an option. Drinking is not an option. It doesn't exist for me anymore. I've got to figure it out, because that's what helped me develop this emotional resiliency, develop these skills. I know how to deal with really hard shit now without turning to alcohol. I know how to let myself rest. I know how to let myself grieve. I know how to be really productive when that's the season that I'm in. I know how to move the needle forward, but I also know how to step back and put up boundaries when that's what I need to. And that's everything you learn. It's everything you figure out when you take alcohol out of the way. Okay. Finally, this has been such a long time coming. I am officially hosting my first sober retreat. We are going to Sedona in April 2026 for a long, luxurious weekend for sober women. This is going to be really just the embodiment of all the work I do in my coaching containers, basically. So we are going to just talk about how do we create a life that actually feels good once we've quit drinking? Because we don't quit drinking to just not drink, right? We do it so that we can heal and feel fantastic as much of the time as possible. So we are going to have some guided workshops all by me. This is going to be an intimate weekend for me and you and other sober women to hang out and to talk about the habits that help us deal with the stress in our lives, the habits that help us heal our body and heal our mind. So there will be some talk on nutrition. There'll be some talk on other things I do on a daily basis to recover from the damage that alcohol did, but to also keep me growing in health and keep me emotionally strong and resilient. There's going to be spa treatments. There's going to be this resort is so gorgeous, you guys. We're looking at, the Red Rocks in Sedona, pool time, amazing food. Food is included. So I just encourage you guys to check this out. Space is limited because I want this to be a really close, tight knit, supportive group where we're gonna have these conversations that are gonna stay with us for the rest of our lives. We're gonna make connections that we're gonna look back on and be like, this shifted during that one weekend and changed how I felt about this going forward, how I felt about myself, how I showed up in my life going forward. So all of the details are in the show notes. They're on my website. You can find them on Instagram. Spots are limited. So if you are at all interested, check it out. Reserve your spot. It's going to be so beautiful. And I really hope I get to meet some of you in Sedona. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. Because when you declare that alcohol is not an option, then you're forced to turn to all of the other tools that are being presented for you, right? So what are you doing during cravings then? What are you trying over and over again to figure out what works for you? Are you somebody that needs to take a walk when you have a craving because your body thrives under movement? Are you somebody that maybe for a while you need to cry? Maybe it's journaling. Maybe you start going to therapy. Maybe you're somebody that finds it easy to shift those cravings and just pour sparkling water or a mocktail. It's all different for all of us. We have to figure it out. But you figure it out when you raise the stakes by saying drinking is not an option, right? It's so exhausting to keep existing in that space where you're wondering or you're keeping that door cracked open for alcohol. It's going to get you sooner or later then. It's going to sabotage your efforts over and over and over again until you just close the door for good and just say alcohol is not an option. Drinking is not an option. And then I'm going to use everything else that's here for me, right? We're using the tool for cravings. We're addressing all of the beliefs we still have about alcohol, right? It's all of the stories we tell ourselves like, oh, but it's so hard to drink because my husband still drinks. Nope. Other people have figured that out. You can figure it out too. Oh, but I'm from Wisconsin. Everybody drinks. Nope. You guys, we figured that out. You can figure that out too. How am I, but work networking events, right? I'm in sales, corporate, all these happy hours. Nope. You guys, somebody's figured it out. You can figure it out too. For everything that you're afraid of. And I don't say this to diminish anything. It's actually to show like the sisterhood that we can tap into, the commonality of our experiences. Like, yes, we all have nuances, right? Like I've in these 3 years, I've never yet actually met another mom whose special needs journey is the same as mine. But I've definitely met a lot of other moms that feel like they're drowning under the weight of kid stress. I've definitely met other moms who feel isolated at a certain point in their journey. And so the bottom line is whatever you think is so hard, you guys, somebody else has figured it out, which means you can learn from that, which also is proof that you can figure it out too. I love that. That was like such a huge sigh of relief for me, right? It's like, okay, I'm not broken and this isn't hopeless. I can figure this out. We've just got to be willing to figure it out. And the way we're willing to figure it out is when we just once and for all take alcohol off the table. It is not an option. It has zero place. And then we're just moving forward. We've got to just keep figuring it out. And we do that, yeah, by doing the things. When we feel bored, okay, we figure out the boredom. When we're grieving and we're sad because we can't be a drinker, and you guys, that's real, right? Face the grief, honor the grief, move through the grief, because then you get out the other side of it. That's the whole point. Like, you guys, we move through all of these phases and all of these situations because then we have moved through them and we arrive in this new place where we have perspective and we have wisdom and we have learned what we're capable of. We've learned what works. And then we have all of that we keep with us and we carry with us for next time a similar situation comes up. And we get to draw on all of that again. That became a little bit of like an inspired heart rant there, but I just feel so passionately about this, you guys, because I have been reflecting on my sobriety a lot. Even my husband said something, in the last 2 weeks since we lost Sammy, because he hasn't seen me this upset and this just all the emotions, right? Sad and despondent and everything. And he's like, it's really incredible. He's like, that not once have I, like, he's like, you haven't even said anything about how you wish you could drink. And I'm like, why would I? Like, no, I can't imagine. But you guys, if this had happened maybe even a year ago, who knows? I might have still had moments where I was like, oh God, I wish I could just get drunk for a night and numb this pain. I don't know. I might have then. I don't know. But I know now, like, I haven't. Not at all. Alcohol holds zero appeal to me, even in heartbreak, even in grief. But I'm only at this point now today because I was willing to do all of the work up to this point. And it doesn't all feel like work, right? You definitely get to a point, like, I don't think I've felt like much is work since, I don't know, 18 months in. It depends. There's seasons, right? There's seasons of work. Life always has seasons of work. But all that to say, you guys, it's just, for a lot of us, a lot of quitting drinking in the beginning is realizing that we have in fact been our own worst enemy most of the time. And it's that radical accountability, calling ourselves out on all of our excuses, on all of the BS, all of the stuff that we are going to either keep carrying with us as, like, clinging to these ideas and these beliefs and these excuses that definitely are not serving us anymore? Or are we going to set them down and just say, enough. I'm picking a different story. I'm picking a different story. I'm choosing growth. I'm choosing progress, even when it's scary. And I'm choosing trust. And I'm just going to keep taking it one thing at a time, one step at a time. You guys, there's a reason we have these sayings, right? There's a reason in sobriety when we say, like, one day at a time. And another saying I had in the beginning that you guys have probably heard a lot was like 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour at a time, because some days that's really what it is. Right? When we are like, oh, but this hurts. This is hard. I don't know how to do this without drinking. Okay. What can you do for just this next second to not drink? What can you do for the next minute to not drink? What can you do for the next hour to not drink? and you just keep figuring it out. Because the more distance you put between you and alcohol, the more of an opportunity you have to get better at all of that stuff. And it doesn't automatically happen, right? This is where we still have to really step into, like, you guys, this is a lot of like agency in ourselves. And you might see this. Like, for example, I'm going to share a random example from Instagram right now, because there's an account that popped up in the past year after dry January last year. So I'm like month 11 now. That kind of gained a lot of traction. A woman who started dry January but had committed to taking a year off. And she was just doing this on her own. And you guys, I 100% want to say I am not sharing this to judge. I'm sharing to highlight how journeys can go depending on the decisions that you make, right? So this woman she decided to quit drinking for dry January and commit to a whole entire year, but she was doing it all on her own. And I know this because I've talked to her, we've messaged, connected online and stuff. No sort of program, no sort of support group, not even like AA in real person. So nothing free, nothing paid, no community, just her deciding not to drink and sharing it on Instagram. Well, then this fall, when she hit about 10 months, her family went through a really heartbreaking loss. I think her sister's husband passed away, and this woman relapsed. She started drinking again and has since committed to getting back on the horse and to staying dry. I share all this to highlight the difference between just deciding not to drink and when we decide to not drink, but to actually learn new ways to handle the hard parts of life, to actually address the beliefs that are holding us back, to actually tap into support systems that can help us grow as a person, help us become more mentally resilient, help us become stronger, right? And more evolved. The point is that we don't just suddenly arrive at things like confidence and ease and peace and freedom and all of this just because we quit drinking. Then we have to choose to learn and grow. Then we have to choose to do all the self-examination, right? And ask ourselves, like, okay, what beliefs do I hold that still serve me, and what ones do I need to let go of, or do I need to change? And what skills am I putting in place? Am I actually learning how to handle stress, or am I just not drinking, right? Because we run the risk of being what's called a dry drunk. Have you guys heard that term? People who don't drink, but basically are just still hijacked by alcohol. Like, they're mad that they can't drink. They're sad that they can't drink. They're resentful. They're angry. All of this other stuff. You guys, not drinking is part of the battle, but it's what you do after that then, right? Are you invested in your own growth? Are you invested in becoming a person that you're proud of? Are you invested in becoming a person that can handle whatever life throws at you? Or are you just not drinking? So I shared, my point behind sharing this woman on Instagram is to just showcase that difference. Like, if we just don't drink, but we're not actually learning skills of how to cope better with life, then alcohol is probably going to get its foot back in the door at some point, because you haven't built up any defenses to it. You haven't found any other coping mechanisms that sooner or later become the standard in your life, right? Because that's like the example, like now, I said, the last few months for me, moving through this like insane heaviness and grief, alcohol's not even a thought, because I'm like, well, no, I remember what it was like when I drank through really hard shit. And now I know all of the other coping mechanisms I have, right? Like, I have my own coach. I have therapy. I know when to isolate, when I need solitude. I know when to turn to friends and family when I need support. I have God. I have knowing how to move my body to process grief, right? Like, I have this whole pile of healthy habits that I've learned now because alcohol, it was never even an option. So part of the battle is moving alcohol out of the way. But then the next part is, well, what are you filling with that space? Are you filling anything with that space? If you're not, sooner or later, alcohol is going to fill it up again. I think I'm going to end there, you guys. I feel like this was a lot. I feel like this turned into like a lot of like a heart sharing, but I hope it helps you guys. I feel like this This is the perspective that comes after time, right? But none of us can get to the hard earned perspective until we just give ourselves enough time to do it. So thank you for showing up today, you guys. Sending you all a big hug.